1974. A flat-faced cabover is hammering down an interstate, driver perched over the front axle, engine cooking under the floor, windshield standing almost straight up like a wall of glass. For nearly 30 years, that was American trucking. Freight yards, diesel movies, television shows, toy shelves, no long hood, no extra nose, just a steel box leading the charge. Then by the 1990s, they were fading fast. Not because they were gentle machines, they never were. So what changed? Because if misery killed the cabover, the timeline makes no sense at all. I am Dale McCoy, and I have driven cabovers. I know what they felt like when the cab bounced, the doghouse got hot, and the engine barked right under your elbow. So yes, the usual story has truth in it. Long hood conventionals were quieter. They rode better. They gave a driver more metal out front if something went wrong. But that does not explain why cabovers ruled American highways for decades while all those problems were already sitting there in plain sight. Fleets are not sentimental. They buy what lets them haul the most freight, stay legal, and make the numbers work. The cabover was not kept alive by comfort. It was kept alive by a rule. And in 1982, that rule changed. To understand why America quit building cabovers, you first have to ask why anyone built them in the first place. Back then, a truck was not measured the way most folks picture it today. The law did not just care about the trailer. In many places, it measured the whole combination, bumper to bumper, tractor and trailer together. One long tape measure stretched from the front license plate to the back doors. That made the problem simple. If the legal limit was tight, every extra inch in the tractor had to come out of the trailer. A long hood looked good, rode better, and gave the driver space. But that hood did not carry freight. A cabover engine truck solved that problem by stacking the driver over the motor. The cab sat high and forward, with the engine tucked underneath instead of out front. No long nose, no wasted length. That flat face was not fashion. It was accounting. A fleet could keep more trailer behind the cab, which meant more pallets, more boxes, more paying cargo. Multiply that by hundreds of loads, and comfort started losing the argument. And once you see the truck as a math problem, all the discomfort starts looking less like a flaw and more like a price. That price showed up in the driver's bones. In a cabover, you were not sitting behind the front axle. You were sitting right on top of it. Every bridge seam, pothole, and bad patch of concrete came straight up through the seat. The engine was under your boots, so the cab filled with noise, vibration, and heat. The sleeper was narrow. The floor was high. Nothing about it felt like home, and maintenance had its own little ritual. To reach the engine, the whole cab tilted forward. That meant anything loose inside could become a missile. Coffee pot, tools, bedding, logbook. If it was not tied down, it was headed for the windshield. Dale will tell you, my back still remembers those old cabovers. But he also understood why fleets bought them. Because misery had a return on investment. A shorter tractor protected trailer length. Trailer length protected freight. Freight paid the bills. As long as the law rewarded that shape, comfort was the thing everybody learned to live without. So if the cabover was the answer to a rulebook problem, what happens when Washington changes the rulebook? Washington changed it in 1982. The law was called the Surface Transportation Assistance Act. Dry name, big consequence. It told the country, in plain terms, that on designated highways the important measurement was no longer the whole truck and trailer stretched bumper to bumper. The focus shifted to trailer length standards. That sounds like paperwork until you price a load. Before that, every extra foot of tractor could steal a foot from the trailer. A long hood was not just a style choice, it was empty space that could have been freight. So fleets bought cabovers because the short nose kept cargo capacity alive. After 1982, that math changed. If the trailer could be a standard legal length by itself, then the tractor was not punished the same way. You could put a conventional truck in front of that trailer and still move the paying load. That was the knife twist. The long hood became economically free. Not free to buy, not free to fuel, but free in the one place that mattered most to fleet accountants. It no longer meant leaving freight behind. And once that happened, the cabover lost its protection. The moment the hood stopped costing money, the cabover had to compete on comfort, safety, service, and fuel. And that was a fight it was not built to win. So now the conventional truck could show what it had been hiding, move the driver back behind the front axle, and the whole day changed. In a cabover, every bridge joint came up through the steer tires and straight into the seat. In a long hood truck, the frame and suspension had a little more time to absorb the hit before it reached your spine. Then came the sleeper. A cabover had to stack life into a short box. Bed, doghouse, heat, noise, all packed around the engine. A conventional gave designers room to stretch the cab, add storage, quiet things down, and build something a driver could live in for more than one hard night. Safety moved the same direction. With a cabover, your knees were close to the front wall. With a conventional, there was hood, engine, and steel out ahead of you. Nobody called it a cushion, but in a wreck, distance matters, and maintenance got simpler. Pop the hood, reach the engine, keep the sleeper alone. No tilting your whole little house forward just to work on the truck. Once length stopped protecting cabovers, all those disadvantages came due. And then another pressure hit the industry, one measured not in inches, but in gallons. Fuel was the part nobody could charm their way around. At highway speed, a cabover was pushing that flat front through the air like a barn door. It did the job, sure, but every mile, that wall of air pushed back. Harder speed meant harder resistance, and harder resistance meant more diesel burn just to hold the same pace. A conventional truck had a different chance. That long hood gave engineers room to shape the nose, slope the windshield, smooth the airflow, and let the truck cut instead of shove. It was not magic. It was pennies per mile. But fleets do not live on 1 mile. They live on 100,000 miles a year, 200,000. Whole rows of trucks running day and night. Save a little fuel on each one, and pretty soon that little number turns into payroll, tires, insurance, and profit. That flipped the argument. The cabover used to earn its keep by giving you more trailer under the law. Once conventionals could haul the same freight, ride better, and often burn less fuel doing it, the old advantage was gone. From there, the disappearance was not dramatic. It was quieter than that, one trade-in at a time. They did not vanish in one big sweep. A fleet did not park 200 cabovers on Friday and buy 200 long hood trucks on Monday. That is not how trucking works. Trucks age, leases end, engines wear out, accountants run the numbers, then the next order goes in a different direction. So through the 1980s and 1990s, the change showed up slowly. A row of flat faces at a truck stop became half-flat faces, then a few more hoods, then bigger sleepers, longer wheelbases, more room between the bumper and the driver. Manufacturers followed the same trail. They did not quit because the cabover suddenly forgot how to work. They quit because customers stopped asking for it in enough numbers to keep building it here. That is how a king becomes a ghost. No explosion, no famous failure, just a machine the road no longer needed. But if cabovers were truly obsolete, they should have disappeared everywhere, and they did not. Look across the ocean and the story changes. In Europe, you still see cabovers threading through old streets where buildings sit close to the curb and a wrong turn can put a mere inches from a stone wall. In Japan, the same idea works in crowded cities, tight loading docks, and roads that were never built for a long American nose. That is the proof. The cabover was not a bad design. It was a design built for a world with hard limits, short overall length, sharp maneuvering, more trailer and less space. America changed the box it had to fit in. Once length laws loosened, highways stretched wider, and fleets could buy longer tractors with bigger sleepers, the cabover lost the one advantage that made drivers tolerate the heat, noise, climb, and rough ride. Machines do not survive because they are pretty. They survive because the road still needs them. And that means the cabover may not be as dead as it looks. You can still see the old idea working where the job is tight and slow. A refuse truck nosing between parked cars, a city delivery truck backing into a grocery dock before sunrise, a terminal tractor shuffling trailers in a yard, turning all day in spaces where a long hood just gets in the way. That is where a cabover still earns its keep. Put the driver over the front axle and you shorten the truck without shrinking the box. You see the curb sooner. You turn sharper. You waste less pavement getting pointed the right direction. And now electric trucks make that shape interesting again. Batteries can sit low in the frame. Motors do not need a long hood out front. Short routes and city charging fit the work better than coast-to-coast hauling. So the answer to why America stopped making them is simpler and stranger than most people think. That was the turn. America did not quit cabovers because drivers suddenly noticed they rode rough, ran hot, and put your knees close to the crash. Drivers had known that for decades. What changed was the rule book. Total length limits made the cabover valuable. Freight paid by the load, and every foot saved up front could become earning space in the trailer. Then the Surface Transportation Assistance Act of 1982 changed the math. Once trailer length mattered more than total combination length, the long hood stopped costing money. And when the hood was no longer a penalty, comfort, service access, and safety pushed conventionals to the front. So the cabover was not a failed truck. It was the perfect answer to a question America stopped asking. If you ever drove one, rode in one, worked on one, or just remember seeing them lined up at a truck stop, tell me about it in the comments. Thanks for riding along, and subscribe for more trucking history told from the road.